Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Unlocked Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson, and it's my pleasure to be back with you guys on a Friday morning here in Gold Coast, Australia. This morning, I have got an amazing guest, and I want to tell you a little bit about this person because ever the professional he is. I think it was about 2 weeks ago, EA was scheduled to be on my show. And as you guys know, for whatever reason, sometimes the universe just decides that, hey, you're not supposed to have that person on your show today. You're supposed to do a solo. And so anyway, that particular day, I decided I would go solo. I shared with you guys some stuff that was going on in my life. But I want you guys to know that poor old EA was actually in the background, frantically trying to get on the show. So like I said, sometimes we just never know what's going on. The universe, the God, whatever you want to call it, has other plans for us. But I want to say that, he persevered and we have him today. And I'm really, really excited about having him on the show because this particular topic that he is going to be speaking about, this whole concept of being a giver rather than a taker, I absolutely love. There's nothing more that really, I suppose, lights me up is when I'm able to give to people. And it's that whole concept of giving without necessarily having any expectation. No, that law of reciprocity. You just give to give, not so that you can get something in return. So we're going to have a great conversation about that and how you actually meld that into your business. So he's somebody that's really, grew up with very, very humble beginnings, grew up as a milkman's son, and he went through life with those very humble beginnings, but met somebody very influential at a point in his life. And I'm not going to spill all the beans on that just yet because I want him to share with you what that actually meant to him. He's done some really important jobs. He's been a janitor. He started, that's where he started out. And then he actually created his own business and services from that. So I think what you're going to hear in today's story from EA is a real sense of wonder, a sense of exploration, a sense of opportunism, and just really taking on board what he learns from others and how you can actually apply that, but in a very, I'm going to say gentle way, because in my conversations that I've had with him, he certainly comes across as that type of person, certainly not forceful, very gentle, and being able to do it from a place of giving. So welcome to the show, EA. It's fantastic to have you here, and thank you for persevering and getting here.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. And I was listening to you say all those kind words, and I thought, well, that's a long list, but it's still not as long as my last name. So I better get to work because that's no more part-time. I got to get serious about stuff. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So let me just cover that because EA had to give me a little bit of a lesson on how to pronounce his name. So let me just make sure that I actually get this right. He will test me now. So, and I was asking him, like, where does EA come from? You guys can go and do your own research and figure that out for yourself. That'll be a little bit of a task for you to do is, what exactly does the EA in EA Csolkovits? Have I got that right?
You nailed it. You were like Robin Hood splitting an arrow with an arrow. You nailed it.
So EA Csolkovits, and he'll actually somewhere in his profile you may be able to find out exactly what EA stands for. Anyhow, that being said, welcome to the show. I managed to pronounce his surname correctly, so one tick for me. Let's talk about your background and how you've come to be like. How did it all start? What was life like way back when? And then this profound moment that you had when you met somebody that was so influential that actually changed the trajectory of your life. Let's tell everybody a little bit about that.
That'd be great. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity. And for the listeners, I'll give them a little bit of a bail so they don't have to do any. The EA is actually my first and middle initial. So over the years, everyone just started calling me EA because of the last name. And it was such a whopper and they just like hesitated and looked. So EA sort of stuck and everyone's called me EA. And as far as I'm sort of concerned, I guess that's sort of my first name as it is anyway, because it just sort of stuck over the years. It's what everyone calls me. But anyway, I just want to share that it's really a pleasure to be able to share with everyone. And my father, I'm in the United States, and I was born and raised in the Chicagoland area. My father was a milkman for a company called Twin Oaks Dairy, and back then milk came in glass jugs. They probably went to plastic because of how many glass gallons I broke inadvertently trying to help my father. But And it was very humble upbringing, you know. I mean, a milkman son, you know. I mean, truly. I mean, he had his one truck, and he delivered milk, and that's what he did. Got up at 5 a.m. and started and delivered. And then at 16 years old, I had my first real step towards success, and I became a janitor. And I didn't mind being a janitor because business was always picking up. What? Anyway, so while there was two extraordinary events that happened while I was a janitor. At 16, I was able to be bonded, which means insured, so that if my buffer hit a piece of equipment or something, the insurance company would pay for it. Well, as a part of that, it also allowed me to be in expensive places and also allowed me to be in really expensive homes. And one of the homes I cleaned was a lady. And when I say her name, it won't mean anything to your listeners until I make the movie reference. Her name was June Martino. And when I cleaned her home, I was 16 then. It was $1 million house, a mansion, literally. Full-time maid and butler, Rolls Royce in the garage. I mean, this spectacular thing. And there was a movie out a couple of years back, and it probably will be out for some time because it's actually a very good view. For those that haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's a good view. It's called The Founder. And it's basically about McDonald's, and Michael Keaton plays Ray Kroc, right? First, I want to say, because I lived that whole experience, not just witnessed it, right? So I lived in the Oak Brook area where the world headquarters of McDonald's was, right? So witnessed all the things. So in the beginning of that movie, it says, again, the name of the movie is The Founder. It says based on a true story. It is based on a true story, but I share with you, it's not the true story, right? There's so much Hollywood spin in it, and and a lot of drama, and they sort of paint Ray in a way he was not that way in real life. That is for sure. But it's Hollywood spin and Hollywood drama to get people to watch the movie, et cetera, et cetera. But there are many events that happen that are nodded to in the movie for sure. And there's a lady during the movie that Ray is Michael Keaton. He's talking to this lady outside his office all the time. She's in the whole movie. He says, June this, June this, June that. That lady is the lady whose house I cleaned every single Wednesday. So here I am cleaning, and her name was June Martino, right? And she told me about the experience of, one day I asked her about McDonald's, and she brought me in the kitchen, and the whole day, even had the maid and butler bringing us food. So she could tell me the whole story of when she worked for Ray, when he was a milkshake mixer salesman, literally up to the moment we're sitting at the table there at her kitchen. And I thought, man, I'm like a 16-year-old snot-nosed kid, and she's telling this whole story to me. And she shared with me the importance that Ray had in her life. And I remember thinking, man, if I could just find a Ray Kroc, that's what I need. I'm a son of a milkman, burnt out janitor. I think my fun time is getting free songs on a jukebox when I'm cleaning a bowling alley at 2 a.m. So if I could I don't even know what I don't know, but I do know I don't know it. Whatever it is, I don't know it. If I could find a Ray Kroc, someone that could teach me and put me under their wing, well, it certainly didn't work out too bad for June. I'm cleaning her $1 million house, a mansion. And I was 16 and it was $1 million house, right? So I remember throwing it out there, and I just said, where would I find my Ray Kroc? Where would he be? And it wasn't 2 months later, about 2 to 3 months, we got a phone call at that same janitorial service. And a guy was in from Detroit. He was opening a diamond store. And my boss sent me over to show him some carpeting. And the guy offered me a job. And I started working for him. And he became the father I never had, even though I had a father. And I became the son he never had, even though he had a son. He truly was an amazing, and I have to say, a puritanical genius. And I give definition of that because, a lot of people use the term genius. And I have to say, in my lifetime, I've met many educated idiots. And an educated idiot, by definition, at least in my book, would be one who has all the book knowledge and can spew it back at you, but has zero execution and zero implementation skills because they've never done it, right? And there's a big difference there, right? So, and my mentor had done it. And to share with you a story that is so graphic to show that he not only was a puritanical genius, but there's lessons that are folded into it. He shared with me what it was like to grow up during the Great Depression that happened in the United States. And he said to me, he said, people had lost their fortunes. So they were literally jumping off of buildings. And he said, because of jumping off of buildings, losing their fortune, they were committing suicide. Multi-mile long soup kitchen lines. I mean, literally multi-mile long just to get a bowl of soup. He said no one had food. He said they were looking for food. And so one day he was just walking by and he told me, you know, for some of our meals, we actually ate cardboard. So to
Wow.
put that in perspective for you. And he said one day he was walking by and, and he saw some guy in the back of a shop and he just stopped in just to talk with the guy. People were just sort of wandering around almost zombified. And he said he talked with the guy and he asked him and said, how are you doing? And they talked, and turns out he was the owner of this store. The store was filled with sewing machines that were collecting dust. And the owner said, he said, I bought all these sewing machines just sitting here. I own this place. I had to let all my employees go. There's no customers. People want to eat. They're not interested in buying a sewing machine. My mentor had this flash in his mind. And he said to the owner, he said, well, how about if I helped you sell some of these? The guy said, what do you have in mind? He was open to anything. They're collecting dust. He said, well, he said, people don't have money to buy a sewing machine. He said, how about if we sell them on payments to people? And he said, we'll split the payments. I'll guarantee the sewing machine. So if anyone walks, you're protected. And he said, and maybe I can help you move some. And the guy said, man, go for it. They're all paid for. Just collecting dust. Do it. The next thing he did was really puritanical genius. He put together a flyer for women to work from home. He told me he never was able actually to fully catch up with all of the responses. He said, because no one was hiring. And the fact that anyone was hiring, he said he was deluged. He said he totally never caught up. And he built this huge community inadvertently, didn't try to, that just sort of gave birth on its own. And here's what he put together. This huge community of women working from home, and he sold them a sewing machine on payments. He gave them the patterns to sew with. He gave them the material to make the clothing. And then he guaranteed he would buy the clothing from them, thus guaranteeing their income. So they could not only make the payments on a sewing machine, but they had an income that they were after for food and everything else. It didn't finish there. When he bought that clothing from them, he sold it to stores as deep discounted, high quality handmade clothing that stores then sold at a deep discount to customers who were looking for clothing that had high value. So what was so extraordinary about that was that in 18 months, Tracy, when people are jumping off of buildings, multi-mile long soup kitchen lines, in 18 months, he earned $1 million.
Yeah.
Now, that's a puritanical genius in my book, right? And what he told me as he was sharing the experience, he said it was actually quite simple. He said things can be simple. It doesn't mean they're easy, but it means they're simple. He said, I just looked at each one of their problems. I looked at the business owner's problem and I solved it. I looked at the women who work from home. People needed income. And he said, and I solved it. And he said, and the customers, he said, the stores and the customers. So I share with you that story because at the age of 19, I asked this man, Sam Robbins, I said, Sam, will you teach it all to me? I said, just all of it. I want you to hold back. Teach it all to me. I need to know it all. And he said, okay, I will. But I want one thing from you. When the time is right, and you will know that time, I want you to teach as many people as you can everything that I teach you. And so at 19 years old, Tracy, I made a vow. I made an oath that even today I'm fulfilling. And that man, of course, is Sam Robbins, and I'm fulfilling my vow and my oath to him. And now that has become what's known as Givers University. But what was interesting about what he did was he not only solved the problem, but he formed this great community of women that were working from home around him. And he said it blossomed into multi-states overnight. It seemed like it was overnight. He said, I was running the whole time just to catch up. And starting with, and this is what he told me, as you go on in business, you are going to get tackled 1,000 times. He said, get ready for it. It's going to happen. He said, but you're going to think you're going to have money problems. He said, you'll never have money problems. He said, what you will have is idea challenges. He said, not money. He said, because everything begins with an idea. He said, every big business, every great enterprise, every solution all started with an idea in one person's mind. He said, so get your mind around, you're never going to have money problems. You never will. He said, even if you think you do, you don't. It's an idea challenge. He said, look for those ideas. And he said, he said, so many people live backwards. He said, because everyone's interested in getting the answer. What's the answer to this? What's the answer to that? I want to know the answer. He said, it's backwards. He said, the answers are omnipresent. They're all around us. He said, they're always there. Focus on asking the right question. The right question will then deliver to you the right answer. Wrong question, wrong answer. And he said, so in life, he said, don't worry about the answers. They're all there. Ask the right questions and you'll always have the right answer. And he told me, he said, whether you knew it or not, you inadvertently asked the right question when you said, where would I find my right crack? Where would I find my mentor? He said, you asked inadvertently, you tripped over the right question. And he said, and as a result, the answer was there. And here we are. And there was so many everyday things he just shared with me. The things that, Tracy, you just don't find in a book. I call it Human Engineering 101, that are just passed on through stories and through the things that happen. So as a result of all of that, that's how Givers University came about. And by doing nothing more than becoming an advocate for mentoring, which obviously I've become, I can share with you, I didn't make up any of this, none of it. I was just a conduit. And I guess part of it was because I just felt I can do it. What?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was a conduit as a part of it.
What's really interesting about this story, and I think this is going to hopefully resonate with a lot of people, whether they are young, like you were, at 16 through to 19, and going, okay, well, this is, having you seem to have a very clear idea of this is the kind of life that I wanted. You saw it, your eyes were opened up, and then as the stories were being told, you had this very willingness to absorb what was actually being said, and then filtering through that and going, well, to get that, what do I actually need? And the as you were saying, the question you asked yourself was, how do I get somebody to help mentor me? Who can I follow that has already been there, done that could potentially share their secrets, their information, their knowledge, their expertise with me, and to allow me to take that on board and actually do it. And I think one of the, even though we've been talking about the ideas will continue to flow. But again, what Sam did and what you have done is actually taken action on those ideas. And I love that whole concept and framework, starting with the solution. Like, what's the problem? What is the problem that I'm seeing right now? And you can make some correlations to what's going on in the world in today's day and age with what happened way back then, and in the Depression. What has history told us? What can I see that happened back then that maybe can give me some clues as to what I can do today? And that whole concept of what's the problem, but not just looking at one problem in isolation. It was almost follow the breadcrumbs and see where are the other problem spots, and can I create almost like an ecosystem, a community, if you will, that actually solves multiple problems with a solution.
Very good. Well said.
And I love that concept.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think and there was only one, people say, well, what's your superpower? And I can tell you, I only had one. I had the ability to do the following, to simply say, I don't know. Could you teach me about that? I'd love to learn about that. Because everyone today is so interested in being preeminent. They're so interested in being the smartest person in the room. And my mentor taught me, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Yeah. I mean, so when everyone's all interested, I want to look smart. And my my only superpower is my ability to say, I don't know about that. Could you teach me? And I was always learning. And you know what's amazing is that they know the difference. There's so many mentors out there, and that's why I'm such an advocate for it. I know June Martino with the McDonald's thing. When I asked her about McDonald's, I'm positive she sensed I was not asking because I wanted to get next to the icon, June Martino. I'm positive she sensed I really wanted to know what happened, and mentors will notice that. They can sense that difference and distinction. And then when they sense that you really genuinely want to know and learn, the information is readily available. And there's so many people that have been successful. But I want to share one thing from mentoring that's so important. When you get a mentor, make sure you select one who has done it, not one who could do. So don't be afraid to ask, what have you done? Don't be afraid to ask that question, because with doing it comes all the things that didn't work also. And there's the expertise. There's the difference between education and wisdom. Wisdom is knowing what to do and when to do it. Education is reading it from a book, right? So to get someone who is wise, who can really share those life lessons, as my mentor blessed me with, and teaching me about, all these things that I was able to share. One of the things he shared with me, two quick things I'd like to share, which the second's even more phenomenal than the first. At 19 years old, Tracy, he said, I want to teach you about this thing called life. And I thought, okay, this should be really interesting. He said, picture in your mind this scale. And on the right side of the scale is all the things you're going to receive in life, all the income, all the blessings, all the benefits, everything you're going to get in your life, you're going to get from the right side of the scale. He said, the left side of the scale is everything you're going to give, all the things you're going to contribute, the investments, the helping others, the time invested, all those things you're going to give and contribute will be on the left side of the scale. Here's what's amazing about this scale. It's never out of balance. Even at a moment in time when it seems in a static second that it's out of balance, it's not. And it will quickly right itself and be in balance. He said, the next thing I say will be the hardest part for you. He said, this is what will be hard. Forget about the right side. Forget about it. And he said, because everyone wants it, and I was always focused on, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? And he said, when you really can train yourself, and he said, and it's going to be tough. He said, but once you really get your head around it, he said, I'm telling you, you'll be unstoppable. And I can share with you that he told me, make it your daily goal to heave so much on the left side of that scale. Put so much on it that your daily goal is to get that scale out of balance, because you've put so much on that left side. And he said, and when you do that, you'll never have to think about what you receive on the right side. And I can share with you, after 40 plus years in business, that is absolute. I'm going to share a couple things with you, and it's not to be braggadocious, is to say these things work. At 23 years old, I was a millionaire. At 33 years old, in 1989 was the first year I earned $1 million in salary in 1 year after I paid taxes. That means it wasn't business money. That was personal income. I paid my taxes and had $1 million left over in my pocket for 1 year. Now, was there anything special about me? No. What was special was that I had the ability to listen to my mentor when he taught me, and I just did the same thing he did. And it was so simple then. I mean, I just followed what he had taught me, and those blessings came into my life. So I share with your listeners, those things are readily available. So we call that the giver scale of life. And we teach people, this is really this is where we want, the place we want to be coming from. Now, the next thing, which is probably one of the last
Can I just ask some, sorry, yeah, I want to ask some questions about that, because I know our viewers are going to be like, okay, there's a scale, the give and the receive. And I want to go down that path. And, maybe someone's saying, but I don't have a lot. What can I give? So let's just talk a little bit about because a lot of people would think it would be something physical. I've got to give away money. I've got to give away my things. Let's kind of give people a bit of it's a mindset shift, right? It's like, how do we shift our mind to, you were saying it's difficult to do, or your mentor was saying it's going to be difficult for you to do that. That's going to be the difficult thing, is to continually focus on, the giving rather than the what I'm going to get. So what was the thought pattern? How did you I'm going to say reprogram your mind to start doing this on the regular?
Well, and it was a reprogramming because, son of a milkman, burnt out janitor, I mean,
Mm,
and again, it was the question. And here's a simple, simple way for those that have that question to, well, a simple thing for them to do. Just ask other people, what's your biggest challenge? Just ask other people, what's a problem that you need help with? That's all. Just ask. It's just that simple. And then solve it. Do what my mentor
mm,
did during the Great Depression. Help them. So remember that money is a yardstick.
mm,
I was blessed to do a lot of charity work with a guy. You've probably heard of a book called Think and Grow Rich.
mm-hmm,
And one of the funders of Napoleon Hill, who actually bankrolled him in the early days, was a gentleman by the name of W. Clement Stone. He owned
mm-hmm,
Combined Insurance. I was blessed to be able to travel with W. Clement and with Easter Seal, and we were on some trips. And I asked him, because at that point he was already a billionaire with a B. And I asked him, I said, Clem, what's money? Because I figure he's a billionaire. He knows about money, right? And I'll
mm-hmm,
never forget, he looked right at me, didn't even hesitate, looked right at me. He said, money is power to do good. So remember, money is the end result, and it's something that we get, and it's a yardstick as a part of our life. Some of the best ways to give to people have nothing to do with money,
mm,
but that has to do with being a solution-based person. And part of what you can bring to the table is asking the right questions, because when most people have challenges, they're asking themselves the wrong question, and then they're surprised when they keep getting the wrong answer, but they're
mm-hmm,
asking the wrong question.
mm-hmm,
So help them and guide them in asking the right question, and then those results are going to be there.
beautiful. Thank you. Sorry, I cut you off. I want you to
No,
continue
no
with
problem.
with
Yeah.
the rest of that
Well,
story and what
yeah, yeah.
you want to share. But I just wanted to delve into that because I
Thank you.
think it's an important piece.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And we want your listeners to get as much as they can. And I want to just sort of download as much of these blessings I've had in my life as, and one of the things my mentor did, and because of him literally living on cardboard and for some of his meals, it did take a toll on his life nutritionally. And he got a really severe case of diabetes, and it took his life early. He left us early as a result. But when I was 33 years old, he came to me and he said, yeah, I'd like to have us compete. And at that point, we were 50-50 partners on many businesses. We split everything sort of down the middle. And I thought, boy, and I was working, and I remember I was looking down, and I looked up, and I thought, you want us to compete? And he said, yes. And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be interesting. And I could see that glimmer in his eye. I knew
Mm,
something was going to be coming up with this. And I said, okay, well, what do you have in mind? And he said, well, this is what I propose. I propose that we see, and we go year to year, we compete against each other to see who can make the other one more money. And he said, whoever the winner is, the winner gets to ask the loser for anything they want, and the loser has to buy it for them. And I said, wait a minute. I want to make sure I understand this for a minute. All right. So what you're saying is you and I are going to compete year to year to see which one of us, and we're equal partners on so many businesses at this point, splitting everything down the middle, right? So, Sam, if you earn me more money than I earn you, you win, I lose. That means you get to ask me, the loser, anything that you want, and I have to buy it. And he said, that's right. I said, so does that mean the other side of the coin is true too? That if I win and I make you more money than you made me in that particular year, I get to ask you for anything I want, and you have to buy. He said, that's right. And I said, and I'll never forget, Tracy, the sigh I made when I went,
mm-hmm.
okay, this is going to be really interesting.
Here we go.
Well,
Uh-huh.
and the first year, Tracy, he beat me so bad. It was brutal. And I ended up paying cash for a house for him in Florida. I cashed the house out because that's what he asked me. And the amazing thing, I couldn't be mad. I had money. He made me more money
Yeah,
than I made him that year. So, I mean,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then the next, and I thought, man, I got to get smart fast. This is going to be brutal if
Mm-hmm.
I don't get my act together here. So the next year I did win, and he bought me an airplane, and that's when I became a commercial pilot. The next year I won, and he bought me a limousine. The next year I won, and he bought me a second aircraft. So I had 2 personal planes, right? And then we just sort of started carrying it forward. And Tracy, it hit me. Oh, this guy's amazing. It hit me what he had really done. I totally had missed the point. It took about the 3rd year before I realized he wanted me to win. He knew his health was deteriorating. We both knew it, right? And he knew he was never going to be able to keep up with me at this point with his life, with the amount of time working in the business, the effort, the schedule. He knew he couldn't keep up. And we were splitting everything 50-50. He didn't want my head to get goofed up because we were splitting everything. And I was clearly going to be putting in more effort because physically I could handle it. And he could not at that point. He wanted me to have something and get that winning thing every year because he knew he wasn't going to be able to keep up. He wanted me to win. And I thought, Tracy, what kind of man comes up with this stuff? You know, I mean, to think of it in advance, play that forward in his mind, that my mind might get goofed up if we're splitting everything, and then put together this whole contest and craft it and come to me with it totally complete in his mind. I thought, this guy is really something else.
Genius.
Who does that, right? So later on in life, I began to label that, and I call that the giver's contest intention. The giver's contest intention, meaning our intention is to contribute more than we're getting back at all times. And that ties all into, which is really what I like to talk about and share with your listeners, is how do we build that giver community? How do we sort of migrate their information link? May I go into that for your listeners?
Absolutely. Please do.
Yep. First of all, I want to mention that what we do at Givers University, I say emphatically, we love everybody. I say it again, we love everybody. And what we teach people is a skill that's not being taught anywhere else. We teach, in one word, discernment. We teach people to do the following. We teach people how to separate the person we love from their deeds, which we may not love, and how to separate those two and actually observe. It's an observation skill. It's a skill that's learned. This is what you observe. Don't listen to what they're saying. Watch what they're doing. And as you observe these skills, you can then begin to discern, should I bring this person closer into my life and become a part of my giver community? Or because of what I'm seeing them do, should I begin to respectfully, not rude or nasty, respectfully distance myself? Because if I bring that person closer in my life, they're going to make me collateral damage. And I'm going to be stomping out fires not of my making. I'm going to have my stress levels going to go up when I'm even around them. And I ask your listeners, Tracy, think about the times when you're stomping out fires. Think about the times when your stress level goes up. They have something in common. There's a name attached to them. And if we can learn how to discern in these relationships. So when we say giver, we're not labeling a person. When we say taker, we're not labeling a person. You're a taker. We don't label people. We're identifying taker deeds. We're identifying giver deeds. There's the distinction. We don't label people, but at a very granular level, we actually, even by checklists, teach people a skill. Here's a list. One of them is called the 25 do's. Here's a list of 25 things you watch people do. And you can simply go down the list and you make check marks on the left side where it says giver and on the right side where it says taker. And you see these things, and at the bottom you total it, and you're already down the right path in discerning, should I have this person closer or should I begin respectfully distancing because of what they will do? And there's nothing in our life right now that's going to have a greater impact on us. With businesses opening and closing faster than ever before, products being antiquated overnight faster than ever before. When it's all done, what do we have left? Our relationships. And no one's teaching us to. I know, Tracy, you're a self-improvement person. I'm positive of it, right? I'm a self-improvement geek. I'm sure many of your listeners are. But Tracy, no one's teaching us, how about the other guy? What should I do if he's doing it wrong? What should I do about that? And so as a result, this teaching that discernment skill, who should I have around me? Who should I respectfully distance? A couple of interviews ago, a guy said, wow, this is great stuff. I read this book. It said I should have 5 good people around me. And I said, you're right. You should have 5 good people around you. One question, which 5?
Yeah, yeah.
And all of a sudden,
Which is,
he's staring at me with this blank look. I said, you see my point?
mm-hmm,
No one's
mm-hmm,
teaching us which 5. They're all saying do the 5, but you don't know which ones. That's where
mm-hmm,
we come in. We teach people how to discern. And this is the best part of what I can share with your listeners here today is this thing called community, right? The term has changed in the last 2 years, at least from my observation. And I could use best as an example. There's a word that's spelled DIET. The word is diet, right? Now, years ago, if I went to a meeting and there was 2 or 3 people at that meeting was called a diet. I went to a diet, right? Then later on, spelled the same way, if I got an allowance or a regular stipend, that stipend was called a diet. I received a diet on a regular basis. Then in my lifetime, as I was growing up, the word diet meant the way I ate. It was my eating
mm-hmm,
habits. Now, if you say diet, it means weight loss. All
mm,
the same words, spelled the same way, 4 totally different meanings. I submit to you, Tracy, we're seeing the same thing with the word community. See if this
mm,
rings true. How many times, or have you had, or your listeners, has someone say, join our community, be a part of
mm-hmm,
our group, we're all the same mind. And you join in, and within hours, they're trying to sell you everything under the sun. Right?
mm-hmm,
That's not a community. That's a customer hit list. It's a prospect list. Why are you
mm,
baiting and switching me? Right. So
yeah,
I call them taker communities, right? And I
mm-hmm,
uninvolve, like, unenroll, because clearly it was defined and put together with the intention to make money off of me, right? To sell me
mm,
something. So why are they baiting and switching? Just call it a customer list, right? If I'm interested, I'll stay on your list. I'll learn about your products, but don't bait and switch me and call it a community and then turn around and try to sell me something. By
mm,
contrast, a giver community is put together and designed to help each member that is in the community using a methodology I'm going to share with your listeners now on how to build it. How do you do it?
mm,
So we call the word community Junto, Junto. Little background on the word. A Junto is actually a group of people who meet together for a common interest or purpose. That's a junto. It's actually a Spanish word dating back to the 1600s. Wasn't used too much. In the 1700s, it was picked up by a gentleman in the United States. His name was Benjamin Franklin. And in
mm-hmm,
1727, he formed a group of 12 friends around him. And they met on every Friday night for a couple of hours. And he named the group the Mutual Improvement Club. Later on, he named it as Junto. Then later on, he called it the Leather Apron Club. And it was 12 people, got together every Friday for a couple hours, and they talked about everything: politics, ethics, business, morals, money. I mean, you name it, they talked about it and discussed it. And they met on a regular basis, right? And we have in Givers University, we teach people how to form 3 different juntos. By the way, we do all this 100% free. It's absolutely free. There are many kinds of juntos. We focus on just 3, but people can, what I'm
mm-hmm,
about ready to go through, they can adapt it to anything in any group that they want. Think of this. We had mentioned Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And
mm-hmm,
he talks about something called a mastermind group.
mm-hmm,
And when he first started talking about that, it was very novel. So he had to explain what it was, right? And he does a masterful job. But it was new then. He explains what it is, but Napoleon never says how to do it. This is how
yeah,
you form one, right? So as a result, I have seen, witnessed, maybe you have, a number of people get together, have a good idea, good intention, and after 2 or 3 months, it just sort of disassembles and dismantles, and everyone just sort of goes by their wayside. And that always sort of got my attention. I thought, when they got together for a good reason, why did it disassemble? Why did it sort of dismember and dissolve? So we focused and we began to focus on why is that happening, and then we put together these 7 steps to form. How do you form a junto? So the 3 different kinds of juntos that we help people at, one is called a giver's greater junto. A giver's greater junto can be any size and any number of people. A couple of good examples: Salvation Army,
mm-hmm,
VFW, maybe Lions Club, right? And look, chapters worldwide, They get together for a common purpose and reason. That's a giver's greater junto. The next is a giver's insider junto. A giver's insider junto has up maybe 2 to 12 members would be an ideal scenario. A good example of this is they're more close-knit. It's a more intimate group. They share confidences with each other and they help each other because they know each other much more personally. A good example would be Ben Franklin's Leather Apron Club, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we also have a third, which is called the Giver's Millionaire Junto, and that is 2 to 12 vetted millionaires that get together for a common purpose and interest. So a good example of that, first of all, was my mentor and I. There's 2 of us, right? And that was a millionaire mentor, and it had a huge impact on my life as fortunes came in and left and came in and left and came in and left in my lifetime, right? Another example was in 1915, Henry Ford formed a millionaire junto, consisted of him, Thomas Edison, the inventor, Harvey Firestone from Firestone Tires, and John Burroughs, who was a writer and a poet. And also, interesting enough, he was a federal bank examiner, so he must have been the money guy. But anyway, so Henry Ford formed his junto, and he called it the Four Vagabonds. And they met on a regular basis. They even traveled together, right? Had a huge impact on each other's lives going forward. So now we get to, how do you form your own junto? How do you do that, right? It's 7 steps broken down into an acronym of 7 letters, and the letters spell the word discern, DISCERN. Now I'm going to hit these a little rapid fire because I just want to give it to your listeners, and they can listen to this over and over again, take notes on it, and I'll show them where they can learn a whole lot more about it. And again, 100% of this is free. Our objective with Givers University is to just be heaving so much on the left side of that scale I talked about earlier, right? Because we know what happens. We know what happens. So the D in discern stands for decide. The first thing you have to do is decide who you want to have in your junto, right? Who do you want to have, right? How do you decide? Which ones? How do you do that? We actually have a checklist that's I referenced. It's called the 25 Do's, absolutely free. And they use this checklist to help discern who should you invite into your junto and who should you respectfully distance. So the D is for decide. I is invite. How do you invite them? We had one gentleman that said, wow, I really like this stuff, but how do I invite these people? What do I say? We even helped them put together he did an outstanding 4-minute invitation video that he emailed to 10 people that was all personalized to invite them to the junto, an insider junto he wanted to form. So I is for invite. How do you invite them? S is for seed. Seed is to explain the expectational agreements that are required of each member, that each member agrees up front that they will hold each other, each member and themselves accountable to. These are expectational agreements. They're so important. Everyone the members of the junto need to agree on these up front before they are accepted in the group. And they are accepted by the other members accepting them in. And assuming it's an insider one for our discussion, that would be 2 to 12 members, right? So with a giver's junto, we have what we call 3 pillars and 1 intention. This can be a great model for other people. They can use these or have their own. It's meant to be a model. We have the 3 pillars and the 1 intention that every member must agree on up front as an expectational agreement. In other words, we expect this of each one of us. Otherwise, it's not a good fit for you. God bless you. Awesome. It's just not a good fit. We love you anyway, and then have those. So this agreement is an important part of that glue that sort of holds the group together. So with the giver's junto, we have the first pillars are credo. Give to be great. You can be great by giving. You don't have to be a taker. Our second is our pledge. The Givers University pledge is to help every Givers Junto member lead a life of predictive, massive, and exceptional happiness, freedom, and greatness. And the third pillar is our labor of love. Every junto should have a labor of love, something bigger than themselves, bigger than the group that they are part of, and a huge problem or challenge that exists. We're launching ours actually in the February with Givers University. February, I meant the fall. This coming fall. And it is huge. Our labor of love is we have figured out, calculated, and know exactly how to put an end to hunger one zip code at a time. And part of the reason I want to do that is because of my mentor when he was hungry, living on cardboard.
Yep.
And to do it one zip code at a time, specifically how to do that step by step. So those are the three pillars: our credo, our pledge, and our what we call our labor of love. Every Junto should have a labor of love. Now, the one intention, because I said there's three pillars and one intention, the one intention is each member commits to upfront the giver's contest intention. The giver's contest intention.
I love that.
That everyone must agree to upfront, that their objective is to contribute more to the other 11 members. Let's say there's 12 in the group for discussion purposes. That each member agrees to give to the other 11 members upfront more than they could possibly ever give back. Now, think about that for a minute. Think about if there was a group of 12 people and all 11 and all are giving back to the other person and the others are doing the same, all with the intention, I'm going to give more to the group than I could ever possibly get back. What kind of power can come out of 12 people like that? It's unspeakable. It's unspeakable, the amount of power that can come out of that. But everyone has to agree up front, because when they do, they can give more freely. They're more comfortable. They don't feel they have to hold back. And if I give some, they're going to take advantage of me. None of that exists with the giver's intention or the giver's contest intention in place. So the next one, the letter is C, which is convene. Get together on a regular time, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is. Convene on a regular basis. E is establish. Establish it. Establish a junto by giving it a name. We have Ben Franklin, Leather Apron Club. Henry Ford, Four Vagabonds. Giving your junto a name establishes it, makes it real, and creates a camaraderie that everyone's a part of this group. That also helps with everyone's participation. And so E is for established. R, rotate. Every meeting should be a different person of the group who is chairing that meeting. Never the same person or two times in a row. Always a different person. We even help them with the agendas. We're doing a series now on what that agenda should consist of. Because a lot of times, it's, after the first 3 or 4 meetings, I go, okay, what do we do now? And so we actually lay forth and help them. This is what should be in your agenda. And this is how you should do that, right? And so R is for rotate, and N is for numbers. Form other juntos, broadcast out to other groups so that you can give to other groups and help them. Not so you can receive from them, but to give to them, because you're going to get the resources anyway. So to hit those 7 letters again: decide, invite, seed, convene, establish, rotate, and numbers, discern. And those are the keys. Following those 7 steps helps them not only build their junto, build their community, but also to have such a huge impact. I have seen this have profound impact on people's lives when they don't have to hold back. And they say, I just want to give, but I don't want to be taken advantage of. I don't want someone to beat me up, and how do you know? Well, by following these steps, they know.
I absolutely, this is just speaking to me so much in terms of the whole philosophy and the fact that, how beautiful of a opportunity you had to meet Sam and have the opportunity to really work with him over that period of time. And it all started by asking that one question. And from that, there has been the door opened wide up, and it created so much momentum because you continue to have that curious mind, interested in learning, interested in absorbing, and then also interested in actually taking action, and then taking that one step further and saying, well, now how do I create this? How do I turn, what Sam entrusted in me, how do I turn that into a legacy? How do I turn that and pay it forward multiple times with, by creating, the Givers University? I absolutely love it, EA. I think what you've done is amazing. And I'm imagining now, when we're thinking about how do you make something really huge? I mean, I'm imagining if everybody had this mindset of how do I just give and give and give, to one another. And those juntos were just they had momentum, and they were carrying on all over the world, which they are, by the way. If we just expanded that, what a difference that would make to the world in which we live. It would completely transform it, right? Because of the way that people.
Yeah. And we literally have Givers University. We have a 30-year plan. And in 15 years, we will have over 1 billion givers that have participated with Givers University. And because of that, and literally we have a plan. It's month by month by month for 30 years. Yeah. What are we going to do? Right. And how do we get there? And to be able to create something. And I know every day Sam's looking over my shoulder saying, are you still fulfilling your vow? And I'm more excited about being able to share this kind of thing. And there's so many things happening today. And there's so many people, Tracy, that are just hopeless. I can tell when I talk to them, they've lost hope. There's no sparkle in their eye. They're not reaching anymore because whether it's current events and politics and all the things happening. And yet, as my mentor taught me, he said, happiness is not the absence of stress. It's the proper management of it. That's happiness. And he said, and when we manage it properly and we ask those right questions, and I was just so blessed to have him in my life. And I can share with your listeners that all of these things are available. If I can share how they can get them for free, we want to. They simply go to our website, Givers, it's plural, giversuniversity.com.
I'll pop it up.
Yep.
So there you go, guys. It's scrolling on the bottom of the screen there.
Yep. You go to giversuniversity.com and you're going to see a place to sign up for our newsletter. First of all, I say we are not spammers. So when you sign up, you're going to immediately get an email that says, do you want to talk with these people? If you don't respond to that, you'll get nothing else from us. We're not spammers, right? So you have to respond to that. When you do and say, yes, I want to talk to Givers University, then 2 hours later, you're going to get the first checklist that I mentioned, which is the 25 do's, which will help you with that D in decide and in discern. Right? It's literally 25 do's. It's a multi-page checklist. Print it off. Put it in your pocket. You can use it for business, family, socially. It works across the board. It's absolutely free. And then each week, we only send out one email. It's Thursday morning. It's called the Giver's Toolbox. And every week we provide a new tool that they can add into their relationship toolbox. And I hate that. I sign up for something. The next thing you know, they're blowing up my inbox. I'm getting 6 emails a day. I just unsubscribe. They're going to get one email a week from us every Thursday morning. It's about a 5-minute read. It's not all lead to. And over that, they'll learn about us and our time. They can also go to our YouTube channel, one word, Givers University. And they're going to see a playlist on there that now is, I think, on episode 19. If they go to the playlist that says how to form your Givers community, it actually has 2-minute clips. And now there's actually 18, and there'll be a total of 21 because we're working on the agenda part. And the first 17 actually go through not all those 7 things I just said in 2-minute clips. Here's how you decide. Here's how you invite. Here's a boom, 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 in 2-minute clips on YouTube, all on that playlist. It's free. We want people to have it because our goal is to get that scale so out of balance that no one has ever seen what can be heaved on the left side of a giver scale like we're going to.
Absolutely love it. Well, I want to say, like, there's so much that has been, shared in today's episode, your wisdom and you just being able to pass down that wisdom that you received from Sam, for all those many years. I mean, I think my favorite part about the stories that you told was that whole concept of where he went into, the giver's contest intention, that just phenomenal of what the mind of the man to, like you say, to think about how am I going to do this, foreseeing and having the level of discernment that he had to know that, hey, if I don't do this, there's going to be a problem down the track. So therefore, I need to come up with a solution. And the man, genius as he was, came up with the solution that he did. And boy, that has really, obviously propelled him, solved the problem that he could foresee was going to happen. And it also created this entire concept of the givers community and has formulated a big part of that. So I want to say thank you so much. Like I said at the beginning of the show, EA was supposed to be on the show a week, I think it was probably 2 weeks ago. I can't even remember. And at that time, there was some other stuff going on in my life, and I had to do the show solo. And I shared a whole bunch of things with you guys at that time. And I am a firm believer of, things happen at the right time, or they happen for a reason. And I feel very strongly that he was supposed to be here today, because there's those of you who are listening today that were absolutely supposed to get this message. You already have the giver's mentality inside of you. You've just been searching for, how do I unlock that? How do I take what is already inside of me, the behaviors, the attributes that I already have, and actually formulate them into something that can truly make a really big difference in the world. And what EA has done today is given you, he's handed you the what do they call it, the olive branch, and said, hey, here it is, it's yours for the taking, come and get it, and it's absolutely free. So I want to encourage everybody, head on over to giversuniversity.com. Go and have a look and see what he's been doing, and be part of something that can truly transform the way in which our local, your family, your local community, your business, the world can operate. And if we take this mentality, boy, I can see a really, it becomes an exciting place to be. So thank you so much for being here, sharing the level of wisdom that you have. And I hope that our listeners take you up on your offer to join a Givers community and Givers University and form their own junto, and just, keep in touch with both myself and EA and let us know, what are you doing? How has it transformed your life? What difference is it really making? And see if you can, we'll challenge you to see if we can get that scale to be extremely out of balance with the level of giving that is going on. So thanks so much for being here. I hope that we can actually have you back again at some other time, and we can talk a lot more about this.
Love to.
Thanks
Thank you
for
so
being
much for
such
having
an
me.
awesome guest today. You're very welcome. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today's episode. As you can see, we've got giversuniversity.com scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Don't delay. Make sure that you head on over there as quickly as you can, and do a little bit of a shout out for EA, because I think he's done a stellar job today in sharing the information, and I just absolutely love what he's about. So thanks for tuning in again for another episode of The Unlock Show. I'm Tracy Wilson, and I'll be back again with another episode next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Brisbane time. And we'll have something else amazing to share with you guys, all about, how to create a life that is unlocked. How do you get the very best so that you can live the best life possible? I share tips, tools, resources, all for free, just like EA does, on how to grow your online business, how to start your own online show, and so that you too can start building and sharing your information freely, as we have done so today. So thanks very much. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody, and I will see you guys again next week. Thanks very much. Bye for now.